Hi, Bella. Recently, a movie called Japan Sinking and a novel and famous comic book have been released, and it is said that many Japanese living in the Japanese archipelago are worried. Have you heard of it, Bella?
Yeah, I've heard of it, Gina. However, many experts say that the Japanese archipelago will never sink in the first place.
Yes, I've heard of it too. In fact, it is said that Japan, located at the boundary of the Eurasian plate, is not a dense oceanic crust that subsides, but a continental crust that rises due to a relatively light density. So I've heard that the Japanese archipelago will never sink because the land will rise and not sink. Gina, do you know anything about Mount Fuji?
Yes, Tony. Mount Fuji is considered a symbol of Japan and a sacred mountain for the Japanese people, and is part of Japan's first national park, Fuji Hakone-Izu National Park. Mount Fuji is the highest mountain in Japan and is a stratovolcano and active volcano with an altitude of 3,776 meters. Bella, but do you know what a stratovolcano is?
Sorry, I don't know. Hi, Tony, do you know it?
Yes, Bella. A stratovolcano is a cone-shaped volcanic body formed by the accumulation of several layers of volcanic debris from the descent of lava flows, volcanic ash, volcanic bombs, and volcanic rock masses.
If Mount Fuji is an active volcano, do you know when it will erupt?
Experts say a Mount Fuji eruption could happen within days or even weeks, but they don't know exactly when. If an earthquake occurs near Mount Fuji next week, it is said that an eruption could occur during the next week. If such a long period of time passes, an enormous amount of magma accumulates in the ground, so you must be prepared for a major eruption to occur.
Do you have any records of when the Fuji volcano erupted, Tony?
Records show that Mount Fuji has erupted once every 100 years. Strangely, however, it has not done so for 315 years since the eruption in 1707. It is true that the Nankai Trough and Mount Fuji are hot potatoes in Japan right now. A lot of people are worried that these two will trigger disasters at once.
Tony, you said hot potato while you were mentioning it. What is the definition of a hot potato?
A hot potato is an issue that makes everyone feel uncomfortable. A controversial subject that no one wants to talk about is one kind of hot potato. Hi Gina, the Japanese archipelago is particularly prone to earthquakes. What are some famous earthquakes that have occurred recently?
The East Japan earthquake in 2011 was a magnitude 9.1. Although this earthquake was the largest earthquake recorded on Earth, there is no report that a volcano erupted in the vicinity due to the East Japan earthquake.
Yes, that's right, Gina. When an earthquake occurs, a magma chamber can be stimulated and a volcano can erupt. But earthquakes do not always cause a volcanic eruption.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Bella. The volcanic explosivity index ranges from 0 to 8. The way to rate the volcanic explosivity index is based on how much volcanic debris is released when a volcano erupts. When Mount Baekdu had its biggest eruption in 946, the explosion index was 7. It was a huge volcanic eruption, but nonetheless, it did not cross the barrier of China or the Korean peninsula. Magma from magma chamber below rises and erupts, but the magma chamber below is not 100% empty and magma continues to exist. No matter how large a volcanic eruption occurs on Earth, there is no possibility that the ground will collapse due to the volcanic eruption. Even Mount Fuji, which is much smaller than Mount Baekdu and expected to be a smaller eruption in the future, would never cause the possibility that the Japanese islands, which are much larger than the Korean peninsula, will be buried. The thinking of Japan is a situation in which you think about what will happen assuming that a large earthquake occurs in the Nankai Trough trench. The force exerted by the Pacific Plate pulls it under the Japanese archipelago. A large earthquake occurs because the Pacific Plate goes right under the Japanese archipelago, and the Japanese islands lose the plate that has been clinging to them and rise upward. Even if such a large earthquake occurs, there is little chance that the Japanese islands would sink. It is said that even after the Great East Japan earthquake, the Japanese archipelago did not sink, but only slightly rose. The comic book or movie called Japan Sinking is an attempt to make the readers more afraid by exaggerating the facts.
Earthquake experts claim that if a Nankai earthquake occurs, of course, there will be considerable damage, but Japan will not sink. The Japanese government estimates that there is a 70–80% chance of a large earthquake of magnitude 8 or 9 occurring in the Nankai Trench over the next 30 years. When the Great Nankai Earthquake occurs, the height of the tsunami is expected to reach up to 34 meters.
To prepare for this earthquake, the Japanese government regularly calculates damage forecasts, and the forecasts released this time are based on 2018. The Japanese government predicted damage to 231,000 people who would be killed or missing, and 2,094,000 buildings completely destroyed and burnt down. It is predicted that direct damage to houses and facilities would reach more than $1 trillion.
The Japanese government, citing the high possibility of a major earthquake in the Nankai Trench, is maintaining evacuation facilities, promoting earthquake resistance of buildings, and continuing to formulate and refine evacuation plans. The reason for presenting the damage forecast is to examine the progress of the earthquake preparedness situation. Many experts speculate that if the Nankai earthquake occurs, the loss of life and property will be severe. Even if a large Nankai earthquake occurs, it is unlikely that the Japanese archipelago will be completely submerged. Even with the Great East Japan earthquake alone, the Japanese islands did not sink after the earthquake occurred, but rather the land rose up a little bit. The comic book and movie called Japan Sinking is an attempt to attract more readers' attention and make them more fearful by exaggerating the facts. The commercial purpose is to attract more readers by connecting the Nankai earthquake and the eruption of Mount Fuji with the sinking of Japan. Earthquake and disaster experts claim that the Nankai earthquake and Mount Fuji eruption will undoubtedly cause significant damage, but Japan is unlikely to sink. Fear marketing refers to marketing that exploits the fear of consumers and is also called the fear of fear. Here, the fear instilled in consumers includes not only fear of factors that threaten health, etc., which are commonly thought of, but also anxiety and nervousness that may lag behind others. Further, using the fear of marketing a bad impression on others is also fear marketing.
It's important to note that while fear marketing can be effective at grabbing attention and motivating action, it can also be controversial. Understandably, people try to make money by using commercials, but we should avoid stoking fear in the minds of young people by distorting and exaggerating the facts too much. People living in the Japanese archipelago learn facts exaggerated by reckless people, that is, hyperbole, when in fact it's okay to live without worrying too much. Attempts to increase sales of movies, novels, and comics by promoting fear of the sinking of the Japanese archipelago are examples of typical fear marketing and a kind of scare tactic.
Geologically speaking, Japan is situated at the convergent boundary of several tectonic plates, making it prone to seismic activity and occasional earthquakes. However, the idea of the entire archipelago sinking completely beneath the ocean is not supported by scientific evidence or predictions. Thank you for watching the video, Japan Sinks and Scare Tactic, provided by History and Current Events.